everyone! So second video review for this week is for Traumatic Love by Ellen Hoil. If you want to check out my Goodreads review, I did just post that the other day. So if you're on YouTube, there's a link in the description below, and if you're on Facebook or on my blog, then there's a link within the post. And this is the video review. So Traumatic Love by Ellen Hoil was a really emotional story. So emotional. It's about trauma doctor Nydia, I hope I said that right, and she's kind of surviving. She's not really living. Her life, it didn't really take a direction that she expected it to, not how she planned at all, and she sort of dedicates her time to saving others, as obviously a trauma doctor would. She's very dedicated to her profession. And then Jo, she's a cop and she's a survivor of domestic violence. And she's dealing with cases that very much trigger emotions of her own ordeal, and she's determined to get justice for victims. It's really important to her. She's got a personal connection here. So when she meets Nydia upon bringing a victim to the hospital, Jo's kind of determined to get to know her. She feels this connection between them and win her heart, and they really both deserve that happy life that they always wanted. What Nydia planned for herself and what Jo expected for herself hasn't quite gone to plan yet. So it is a romance, but it's very traumatic, as the title would suggest, in the subjects that it deals with. So a lot was covered in this story, a lot, and I mean a lot. As the title suggests, the content was kind of traumatic. It was a romance, like I said, but it was dealing with some pretty heavy subjects. So when sort of learning what Nydia and Jo have both been through, how it's affected them, how they handle situations, people, their own emotional connections, you just can't help but feel empathetic towards them. Even if you've never experienced any of the traumatic events that they're kind of experiencing throughout this book, you will be empathetic. It's just impossible not to be. They have been so badly affected by their past, and it just shows you the consequences of actions, other people's actions usually, and the big impact they can have on somebody's life. And I think Ellen really handled that well in here. But they've seen really traumatic things, like really traumatic, and it was just such an emotional journey that you went through with them on this, because to experience such things, it does change a person, and it's definitely changed Nydia, and it's definitely changed Jo, and how they perceive the world and how they perceive everything. So there were a lot of twists and turns in this. I really had no idea what was going to happen, and that added an unexpected sort of element alongside the connection forming between Nydia and Jo. There was, every time you thought they were taking a step forward, there was something that was going to stand in the way somehow and impact what was going to be the outcome of the story. And the twists and turns were amazing, like literally not even predictable. I never would have seen any of this coming, and I couldn't have even predicted it. So although Nydia and Jo had this fantastic chemistry, it really was their own feelings, their own thoughts, their own past experiences and everything that kept wedging between them and causing tension. To a point, they were actually causing their own tension, but you could totally see why, and you could understand, you could really sympathise and empathise with everything they were going through. So the relationship between them sort of provided for a really intense and fast-paced read. It was constantly changing, like chapter to chapter, everything was upheaved and changed, which is something that trauma does. And as the title suggests, it was quite a traumatic love that they were experiencing together, just because of everything going on and everything happening. But like I say, you couldn't predict what was going to happen, and the plot, it did take a turn always in really unexpected directions. So if you like stories where there's that element of surprise and you really are never going to know from chapter to chapter what is happening, this is a great book for that. It ticks those boxes. But the topics covered in the story, like I say, they were handled really realistically, sensitively, and they provided quite important moments to consider why the characters were acting the way they were or making the decisions they were, and to consider the consequences certain actions have. So I really loved that. Ellen's really built in a lot in here. She's covered a lot of subjects, domestic abuse, a little bit of racism, homophobia. There's quite a lot of things covered in here that are very traumatic to people and really do affect their life. So I love how she handled those really realistically, really sensitively, and they really provided that impact, just to give this romance something with depth and more feeling, and also to sort of make you as a reader more really question what you would do in a situation like that, or whether the characters were acting in a way that you could understand why they were acting that way. You really thought about things. It's a very thought-provoking story, so I loved that. But it was enjoyable, it was emotional. Do be prepared if you do get triggered by anything like domestic abuse or violence. You may find this a little bit edgy, but I definitely think it's worth the read. It's all, like I say, it's all handled sensitively and realistically, so I recommend it to anyone who likes romance with edge. And if you like something a bit different, this will definitely tick those boxes for you, and I really enjoyed it. So I'll pop a link in the description so you can go and grab a copy of Traumatic Love by Ellen Hoil, which I hope you will. Hope you'll give it a go. If you've read Traumatic Love, I would love to hear your thoughts, so please comment below, please get involved, please let me know what you thought of it. If you haven't read it yet, but it's on your to be read list, you're planning to read it, or you're now intrigued and really would like to read it, again, comment below, because it's always great to hear what you're reading. And if you do read it, I hope you not only enjoy it, but also get something out of it, learn something, and have an experience whilst reading it. Bye!